So we've been here last year. We were watching some of the best stringers in the world here at the Yonex stringing team at the German Open, and we got a lot of requests and questions from you guys. So I think it was a no-brainer that we have to come here once again, and I'm once again here with Tim Willis, chief of the stringing team. And yeah, once again, first question: how is the tournament going so far? The first few days?
Oh, it's going okay. We don't have so many rackets left actually now, but the first day we had 300 dumped in.
I saw all the table was like packed with rackets.
Yeah,
but
like
now
normal. As you know, it's the first of 5 events.
Yeah.
So the German Open is always a busy tournament because people are then following on to All England, then to Swiss Open, Madrid Masters, and then Orléans.
Yeah. So the European tour starts here. How many rackets do you string during that week? Roundabout.
Here we've done around 450 so far. Last year was 670, but there's also, as you know, a lot of players are not playing German Open. We have a lot of top players missing here, like Victor, Carolina, who generally have, that's an extra 20 rackets. You know, so I think we'll do around 500, 550 for the week. Last year was 670.
Okay. So this year's edition, who's the player who brought the most rackets?
It's a very nice German player actually, that's Mr. Lampsfuss. So yes, he's had 14 strung. One Danish guy put in 8, so he came well prepared. You know, but Mark only puts them in when they break, when he's playing. So
I saw yesterday at the first match, first men's doubles from Mark, he broke 4 strings in a match. Is there also, what's the record that you have seen or witnessed in one game of broken strings?
The most I saw was 7 in one set.
In one set?
In one game. And we were doing some. It was Carsten Mogensen.
And did he win that?
Actually,
that
he
game?
won. Yeah, he won. But we were doing on-court rackets.
Okay.
At the same time, so as soon as someone was bringing them, we were on-court rackets. Very high tension, as you know, with the Danish players. But that's the most I've seen. Lucky he never broke another one after that. But he has plenties in his bag.
We talked about the players who break the most strings. Is there also someone that comes to mind in terms of breaking very few strings, even though he has maybe quite a high tension?
It's generally singles players don't break so many strings. So Victor, for instance, is using BG80 at 32-34 with 10% pre-stretch. He doesn't break so many strings. So he will, okay, we string a lot of rackets for him at the start of the tournament because he's travelled in. And he may bring 1 or 2 during the event. Sometimes he brings nothing. You know, but the prime example is the Yamaguchi. She has 24-26 with X-Bolt 63. She breaks no strings. Yeah, that's very, very rare that she breaks a string. And
is there a point where she decides to cut the racket because it loses tension over time?
I think she just plays with it until it breaks.
Okay.
Yeah,
but it takes very long.
And we maybe get 1 or 2 rackets for her at the tournaments.
All right. So what is the main string that the players are using at the moment? We also have a few strings lying here around. So what is the most famous one?
So we still, BG80 is still the most popular. And now that's closely followed by Aerobite, which is around 25% of the tournament. BG80 is around 35%. Coming now is the new string that Yonex is really pushing is X-Bolt 65, which has the best hitting sound in the world. And this is what Mark Lampsfuss is now using. We changed him actually at the World Championships in Tokyo, and he started using straight away and won a bronze medal in the mixed doubles. So, and Aaron Chia also changed at the World Championship and he wins a gold medal. So the
maybe-
string is really good, but this is very, very close to the other two strings now.
Okay.
So we have three quite popular. A lot of Chinese are using X-Bolt 63, the thinner one. And there's a little bit of Nanogy from Japan players, Lixea Sen, BG80 Power. A lot of Malaysians using 65 Ti, very popular in Malaysia. And obviously, this is the selection of most of the strings that we're using.
The top player, these are the strings that the top player is using. How much tension do they put on these strings?
That's a secret.
That's a secret.
Yes, no, Mark, for instance, is main string is 30 pounds. The cross strings, he has strung 10% more at 33, but he also likes pre-stretch because he likes the really nice ping you get off the strings. The highest we used to have was Bow and Mogensen, were 35, 36 with 10% pre-stretch. The one thing I will say is that they are professional players. The average tension is really now is 28 to 30. That's the average. The Chinese are not so high. The maximum we have for one of those is 32.
So last year, if you're interested in what these things like pre-stretch mean, we talked about it a lot when we were also stringing rackets here. But I would be interested to know a little bit more about what does the tension actually affects and why usually lower level players or beginners should go for a lot less tension. What is the reason behind that?
The main reason is that because they're not in full-time training, they generally don't hit the shuttle in the middle of the strings all the time. So they need a little bit less tension to generate more power. Whereas the top players feel that the louder, I personally believe, and I had a long conversation with Carsten Mogensen over this, was the louder it sounds, they think you're hitting the shuttle much harder. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I also have an opinion now that the rackets are getting lighter. The shuttles are a bit lighter than they used to be, especially when I was playing. So I believe you need that little bit extra tension to generate the power and the control.
But there's no real evidence that if you put more kilos on the strings, your smash gets harder.
Well, if you only have to look at the fastest smash in open play was by Mads Kolding,
yeah.
at over nearly 400 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, for 17, I think.
Yeah, and he Mads' rackets were being strung at 33, 35 with 10% pre-stretch.
Okay.
So
he's
but
using...
as I said, these guys are professional players. They're training every day, and they're hitting it out of the center of the racket most of the time.
Yeah. But I think I've also seen a lot of beginners or amateur players. They see how much tension the pros put on, and then they think, I will get a much harder smash, and I will get so much more power if I just put the same amount of tension on the racket. But yeah,
the higher the tension, the smaller the sweet spot. So this is why we say it. And obviously the shape of most of the Yonex rackets are isometric. So the sweet spot is bigger, as we know, and that's to help the player. So the harder the tighter you have the strings, the smaller that sweet spot gets, and obviously technique does come into hitting. And these guys have good technique, whereas most of the amateur players have okay technique.
So have you also experienced some common mistakes with average badminton players that they are doing when it comes to not only the stringing, maybe also the material in terms of picking a racket?
Most hobby players, amateur players, they want the best, which is not cheap, as you know. So you're talking around €200. They buy one racket. Okay, when they break the string, when they're at their club night or whatever, they have to borrow someone else's racket. So, as you know, you have the lower end rackets from the made in China or Taiwan, you can buy 2 rackets for the same price as one, and the technology is as good. But it's not about this. It's not about the racket. As you know, when you play, you don't hit the shuttle with the racket. You hit the shuttle with the strings. So this is more important than this. And I'm sure if you put a €30 racket in Lee Chong-wei's hands, he would still beat 90% of the players in the world.
But not if you put like the cheapest string with very low tension.
With low tension, yeah. It's all about the string, you know, and the hobby players, they need educating into. Also, you don't necessarily play until the string breaks, because you're losing the tension. And the rule of thumb is that if you play twice a week, you should have 2 restrings per year.
Yeah, super interesting. And I think the point about maybe spending a little bit more on the stringing, because this is sometimes the thing what really matters, is a very good advice for a lot of players.
Yeah, and what also the hobby player, amateur player, needs to understand is that these strings that are being used, like Aerobite, is really one of the top strings. You can't expect this to last as long as BG65. It's not as durable.
And what is the tension that you would recommend for beginners or amateur players?
I would say you shouldn't go above 24 pounds, which is 10, 11 kilos. 10.5 kilos is, for an average hobby player, is enough.
You and your stringing team, you're traveling around the world. You have met all the top stars over. How long are you in the business now, Tim?
This is my 25th year.
Okay, so you've met several legends on the tour for sure. Are there any special moments, special stories that come to your mind?
I could tell you a lot of stories,
yeah, I can imagine.
But not in the badminton hall.
So we're going to meet later in the pub, but something that's maybe badminton hall approved.
The funniest thing that we had is obviously Victor, Carolina. They give their rackets. They just give their rackets. They don't fill out any of this information. In my opinion, that they're entitled to do that because they are Olympic champions. But the funniest moment was Kim and Anders were putting their rackets in, and Bo just walks up, puts his rackets down and walks away. And Kim turned around to him, he said, Matthias, you don't have to fill the paper. He said, when you've won the All England, you don't have to fill the paper out.
So I think also a very cool atmosphere always when you pass through here, your stringing service, and I can only recommend, if you are here watching the German Open, if you are a spectator in the hall, just check out the stringing area. You can get really close to the action, what's happening. I think also very impressive to see how fast these guys are with the strings, with the rackets. Always cool to come here. Thank you so much,
Brilliant.
Tim,
Thank
and
you.
best of luck, and have a lot of more fun this week during the German Open.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be back.